Greetings. So we're just going to give this a moment because I know people are signing on. And I want to thank Chen Ling Center so much for providing this live stream right now. And basically, we've got a session on to calm the mind during these challenging times, which I think a number of people could really need help with this. So I want to thank Chen Ling. I want to thank Stephen, Venerable Carol, all the people that made this possible, Mary Ellen, Lynn, all the people that are part of bringing these online teachings to you, whether it's via Zoom or via Facebook Live. So thank you so much, everyone. Please do remember your centers, especially Chen Ling right now, and maybe Stephen could post a donation link. I don't need the offerings, but I would like to really encourage you to support the center that's providing this ability, and also to to help the centers. Basically, they're closed to in-person teachings. They're trying to do this to make a support for us. So please do think about that. Maybe Chen Ling could post a link of how they can make a donation to the center. Thank you so much. I'll mention that a little bit at the end, but I want to thank you for joining. And basically, what I'd like to do right now is to start with a meditation, which I find one of the most helpful ways to keep our minds calm, balanced. And right now, so many other people are needing help. So if we can remain calm, if we can remain somewhat grounded, and in a sense, we're all grounded right now, aren't we? Grounded inside, but this is a way that we could provide support for others that contact us, that call us, that are emailing, that are a bit more challenged right now. So thank you so much. So just find a comfortable position, and you can be on your couch. It's fine if you're in bed, if you're in your pajamas, it doesn't matter right now. And the nice thing is that we are all connected this way. So one of the benefits of technology, and yes, we will have time for questions and answers as well. This is about an hour and a half. It's a short time. And I'm hoping to weave you through some meditation, some brief meditation, as well as some techniques that help us to stay balanced. So again, finding that comfortable posture. Just allowing yourself to close your eyes lightly. And as you do this, slowly allow the fetters of the day, the distractions, any anxieties that are arising, your lists and your agendas. Just put that to the side right now. Begin to focus your awareness on your breath, a natural, normal breath. And just begin to become aware of the air as it moves in your nostrils. Notice expansion of the lungs, perhaps a shifting of the abdomen. Notice upon an exhalation the contraction in the air up and out the nostrils. Please stay with this for a few moments. And as you do, allow the breath to deepen. And if you can, breathing in the nose slowly. And allowing an exhalation slowly out of your mouth. Allow the distractions to float off like clouds in the sky. We have all the rest of our day to deal with them. Distracted thoughts. Just staying with the breath, one of our best techniques to keep the mind calm, centered. And adding another technique right now, and you can stay with the breath in your daily lives as long as you can, as long as you'd like. Taking those deep breaths really helps to increase stability, allowing us to release tension. So perhaps on the inhalation, you're also bringing in something positive to your mind. So you're inhaling hope. Imagine exhaling fear. Inhaling positivity. Exhaling free-floating anxiety. Inhaling love. Exhaling confusion. Put it into your own words for a few moments. Think of something positive you'd like to bring into your space, to your mind. What can you let go of right now that's not benefiting you? And often we forget to take care of ourselves during these challenging times. So let's imagine now inhaling some loving kindness to ourselves. But as a lot of us are also focused on taking care of others, every time we exhale, we imagine exhaling loving kindness to all of them. Inhaling some peace and loving kindness to ourselves. And exhaling, it could be someone in your household, could be someone in your larger community, could be globally. Exhaling the loving kindness to the planet right now. This is a wonderful way we take care of ourselves, we take care of others. And just a last exercise during this meditation right now. I find one of the best sources to lend buoyancy during these challenging times, buoyancy and calm to our own minds, is a practice of gratitude. We have a lot to be grateful for, even during challenging times. The more I focus on that, the more balanced I feel. So as you close your eyes, just reflect right now on some positive aspects of your life. Feel some joy as you reflect on these. I would imagine right now, if you're watching this, you have some access to the internet or Wi-Fi. That alone is a huge luxury and advantage on the planet. Can you rejoice? You're internally smiling. Rejoice at the ability that you have that in your life that's keeping a lot of people connected right now. Celebrate that internally. Smile inwardly. Feel the gratitude as much as you can. Let's look at the essentials though right now. Food, clothing, and shelter. Most probably, if you're watching this right now, you have those three things. They are not immediately threatened. Inhale that piece of gratitude. The major essentials of life, food, clothing, and shelter again. Let that appreciation soak into your cells. Body and mind pervaded with gratitude. And if your mind is wandering off to distraction, to negative mind states, no worries, just become aware and bring the mind back to focusing again on these positive circumstances. Let your body and mind be pervaded with this gratitude. And from this place of incredible good fortune right now, all of us, we all have our various problems, no doubt. But from this place of great good fortune, let's think about our motivation. This is a fantastic place to start, the motivation. Every morning, can we wake up with a positive mind state? Any time of the day, can I reorient myself with a positive mind state? Okay? So what would be wonderful if we had an ability not only to help ourselves, but to help all living beings. Okay? If that's possible, maybe you'd really also like to help somebody in your household, someone in your community that's struggling. So if we can take the focus, which is usually on ourselves, and just direct that a little bit more externally to what are others' experiences. What if we think about all the people suffering from the COVID-19 virus right now all over the planet? How many more may be suffering? How many families have been affected by a death in the family from this virus? or death from something else because they couldn't get the health care needed due to this virus. How many different ways it's affecting us. Okay? So focusing on all of those instead of focusing just on ourselves, see if you'd like to roll that into your motivation right now. And this is you putting your mind in a most positive place from all of the fortunate circumstances of your life. Take a moment right now. Set that motivation for our time together and all the activities of the rest of your day. And bringing the awareness back to the breath. And please relax. And when you're ready, please open your eyes. I'd like to talk about some other ways that have really helped me to stay grounded and calm. And I'm bringing some of these in from a wonderful book called The Book of Joy. I'd like to talk a little bit right now about the 8 pillars of joy. And this is a beautiful book that was an interview with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I highly recommend the book, but these are 2 individuals who suffered some greater misfortunes than most of us will ever know. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama lost his country in the 50s to a totalitarian regime and was exiled from Tibet into India, along with about 150,000 Tibetans that left. And then his country went through an enormous genocide where even to this day, about 1.3 million Tibetans have been slaughtered by the communist Chinese. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, as many people know, went through the apartheid regime in the Republic of South Africa. So that regime has now ended. It's far from perfect there, but it's an emerging, a very new situation for the people that live there. So both of these individuals went through enormous suffering and somehow were able to emerge and still live with a joyful attitude, a positive attitude to face the difficulties. So I wanted to look at what supported them. And these were some things that they discussed and how this can lend right now some buoyancy, some calm to our lives. So I want to talk about the first one, perspective. Perspective is our ability to reframe a situation more positively. More positively. A healthy perspective is really a foundation for joy, happiness in your life, regardless of what is going on, because the way we see the world is the way we experience the world. What's your attitude? So changing the way we see the world, in turn, changes the way we feel and we act, which can have a ripple effect out there from your own unique entity of yourself. And so that has an effect on the world because we're part of the world. Okay? So from Buddhist teachings, the Buddhas mentioned with our mind, recreate our own world. What are you creating with your mind? What is your attitude in general? And it was interesting in the book where His Holiness the Dalai Lama talks about for every event in our life, there are many different angles. And when you look at the same event from a wider perspective, your sense of worry and anxiety reduces and you can have greater joy. So a lot of people right now with perspective, a lot of people in our situation that are able to watch this, a number of people mention that actually, I know people that said they're catching up on their reading, people that are catching up on cleaning out parts of their house they've meant to do, repainting a room in their house, fixing the thing that needed to be fixed because they're housebound. They're happy not to be in their cars. So there's always a positive spin as opposed to other people that mention they feel they're going crazy staying in all the time. And for those of you that are able to go outside and walk, I'm noticing alone in my neighborhood right now, the number increased people on the street taking walks that wasn't happening before. These are not people that were in gyms. Some of them said, oh, they've never gone out and they weren't getting exercise and now they're taking walks every day. So there is a positive side amidst the unfortunate circumstance right now of this virus spreading the planet. Okay, so is there a new perspective? I do know people, and here's a different mindset you could have. Some people I know streaming Netflix videos all day long, laying in bed, and they're telling me that their back hurts, their eyes are kind of fuzzy because they're watching these videos all day, they're bored, and they feel kind of guilty that they're wasting time. So there's one perspective. Okay, there's nothing wrong with taking a break and watching something when you want to. But if it's all day long, you have to check yourself how you feel at the end of a long viewing period. So again, basic mindfulness practice. You go back, let's go back. I'll just give you an example. Close your eyes for a moment. I'd like you to recall right now the last time you focused on news, current day news, whether it was on a television, a computer, or another device, or perhaps a newspaper. Just notice the last time you checked in with the news. Can you now reflect on how often would you say you're checking in with the news right now on a daily basis? And is it more than you normally do? And then I'd like you to reflect. Can you go back into the last time you checked the news? Let's say it's news about the virus. So I want you to put your mindset in the last time you read or noticed something on the news about the virus. Put yourself back in that situation if you can. Imagine as if you're watching or reading or looking. And just finish that little situation, little episode of your life. Can you get a sense now as it ends, end the period? Use some basic mindfulness right now. How do you feel? How did you feel as soon as that news episode was over? If you can go back into that situation, notice any sensations in the body. Notice any experiences in your mind. Okay, let's pause a moment. Just pause from this view right now. We're going to have another look at something else we might be doing. Okay, I'd like you to lightly close your eyes. I'd like you to refresh the last time you went for a walk outside of your house, or the last time you did some stretching or some exercise in your house, either to a live video or an audio exercise or just on your own. And I'd like you again to place yourself in that experience. Go through a few moments of doing the exercise or taking the walk. And then slowly begin to conclude the exercise. And if it's a walk, bring yourself back home. And I'd like you now to just try to get into the space at the end of the exercise. How did you feel, body and mind? And slowly relax and open your eyes. So what many people are feeding back to me is they're watching and focusing on more news right now than they do normally when they're working and able to go out of their houses. The news is not pleasant right now. So you have to figure out, is it worthwhile having an unpleasant experience coming in your mind more? Can you be strong enough to resist the habit of not checking the news so much? Can you set actually times of the day that are your times to look at the news? Maybe it's a short time in the morning and maybe a short time at night. Can you limit yourself to twice a day? The news isn't changing all that much right now other than numbers afflicted with the virus going up. That contributes to anxiety. That will interrupt your calm. So you have to be strong and skillful to try to resist those patterns. It's basically what we're doing in Buddhist practice. If you're a Buddhist practitioner, you're working to avoid the patterns that get your mind into negative mind states. And you're trying to move towards those patterns that enhance your positive well-being. It's that simple. So can we resist and be strong enough? Let's find some substitutions in gaining a newer perspective, that first pillar of joy. If you notice that when I did some stretching and when I actually went out for the walk, some people I know now are not allowed to go out for walks. I think in the UK it's quite limited like that. But there are exercise, there's a lot of different videos online for free. So usually most people say when they finish even a short exercise routine, a short yoga program, they always felt better. And here's another thing. It seems to be keeping people out of the kitchen. A lot of people are gravitating to their kitchen right now, okay? And they're eating a lot. That's a normal thing when we're stuck at home and there's a problem going on, is people tend to take refuge in their refrigerator, okay, in their pantries. So here's another just basic situation. Some of us are living in small spaces. Some people have larger spaces. Is it possible in your home to find a comfortable little nook that may not be in front of a device and is not in your kitchen if possible? Okay, that you can set up some comfortable space to do that exercise, to read the book you've wanted to do, to work on some of the other written work you've wanted to get to, study, things like that, that you feel comfortable that space. And that space starts to set you up of, I want to go back to my safe, private space. So I know some people that have been trying to set up a meditation area in their home for a while. This is the perfect time to do it. Clean out the closet, get that space set up, and find that comfortable nook for yourself that's away from the kitchen and away from devices, if possible. So we try our best as well. Don't beat yourself up. There are some people, though, the people that have told me they've been a bit bored, is there's a lot of educational materials online, a lot of educational materials, TED Talks, there's other education apps, and there are some certificate programs where in a couple of months, if you happen to be quarantined for a couple of months, which could happen, okay, you could get a certificate that may benefit you in getting your next job or help you with a promotion in the job you've wanted. Or maybe you've always wanted to learn Spanish and this is your time to spend, and maybe you allot an hour a day to do something like that. So the other part is, do you have a schedule for your day? Do you have a schedule for your day? Normally with the work day, we have more of a schedule. I have to be at work at a certain time. And that means I have to leave the house at this time to get there. And then I come home from work at a certain time. And this is the time I exercise. So we have more of a schedule. And when you get home, there's a free form space. So some people are finding they get out of bed later. They're actually not changing out of the sleeping clothes. So they're conducting meetings like that without a camera. There's not a problem doing it, but what happens is you're not necessarily using each hour that you could as wisely. So maybe you schedule that a certain time of the day, 1 hour, I do some practice, some meditation practice. Then I might have another hour, I'm going to study something that I've wanted to do, and I'm going to make a plan that in 1 month, whether I go back to work or not, I can actually finish that program that I've wanted to do. And then maybe I have an hour of exercise or a half an hour twice a day. You don't need to stick with an hour. Do it 20 minutes at some point. I got interrupted with a phone call, had 20 minutes of some exercise, and you can just pause it. It's different if you miss the class at the gym. Now you just pause it. You take your phone call, finish the phone call, and back. I just start the video. No problem. So we have a little bit more of that freedom to practice at home and to do these things at home. But it's going to take the strength of mind to set up a structure like that for you if you don't work well in an unstructured environment. Let's go back to perspective, this first pillar of joy, okay? So our perspective towards life is our final and ultimate freedom. It's our perspective literally has the power to keep us alive, or it has the power to cause us death. So perspective, it's nothing less than the kind of skeleton key that opens all of the locks that imprison our happiness. Okay? What's the healthy perspective that His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu are talking about that allows us? And so His Holiness talks about wider perspective, larger perspective. If you want to view, and when they talked about sheltering in place, the thing that my mind went to was the homeless community and the prison population. Okay, many of us have shelter. Some of us have great shelter. We're in a very comfortable environment. We're quite happy not to go to work and work at home like that. So what about people that don't have shelter? Where do they go? What do they do? What about the prison population that cannot distance themselves? It's a horrible thing to think of them being locked in with everybody around them contracting the virus. So think about the larger perspective and then think about, well, my situation is really okay right now. My situation, pretty nice right now, okay? So a way, also this larger, wider perspective, can I step back and look at the bigger picture, okay? To move beyond, and here's the next catch, my limited self-awareness and my limited self-interest. When I stay with what we call in Buddhism the self-cherishing thought, when I stay there, I find not as happy as when I have a broader perspective and think, can I contribute to somebody else's well-being? Whether it's a phone call where you're checking in with somebody who feels vulnerable, maybe an elderly person or somebody with a chronic illness. What about an email message to them? I've sent some email messages to people and I didn't think it was a big deal. It's pretty easy to send an email. I can do it on my own time. I don't need to wait for a response. And then I got responses back from people saying how they were so touched that I was checking in with them. Makes people feel good. Maybe you can do face chats with elderly people that cannot leave their facilities. They cannot, some of them even leave their rooms. Right now in nursing homes, assisted living centers, senior communities, people in the hospital. But if they have access to some kind of device where they can do a face chat with you, it really picks them up, really picks them up. Even a voice call for somebody is really helpful right now. So many ways we can step back and think about, can I call somebody or reach out like that? Do you have WhatsApp groups? We have all kinds of ways we connect online. Many ways. So incredible. With a wider perspective, we can see our situation and all those involved in a larger context. Okay? And I can operate from a more neutral position rather than anxiety of all that's happening because I can't go outside my house right now. And I can't go to the supermarket. Or I went to the supermarket and I didn't feel like they were practicing any good health practices right now. Okay? So by seeing the many conditions and circumstances that have led to this event, we recognize our limited perspective is not the whole story. There's more going on with the planet than's happening in my own home right now. So by stepping back, we can also see this long view and have a clearer understanding. So that's one thing that can be very helpful. That's something you can apply. The second pillar I'd like to talk about is humility. Humility. And the word humility, that also humor and humanity all come from the same Latin root word for earth or soil. They all come from the same Latin word for earth or soil. So humility literally brings us back down to earth, and sometimes with a thud. Okay? Right now, we've been brought back down to earth with a thud based on there being this illness in the world. Okay? So arrogance really comes from insecurity, needing to feel that we are bigger than others, from a nagging fear that we are smaller. Okay? So, and there's a Tibetan saying that wisdom is like rainwater. It gathers in low places. It gathers in low places. So to think about, if this has brought us to our knees as a planet, okay, I would like to hold out hope that on the other side of this, and there most probably will be another side of this. I certainly don't know for sure, but we've gotten through some pretty bad illnesses on the planet. Okay, this seems to be more widespread. One saving grace is the majority of people who contract this survive. So unlike HIV in the beginning, unlike filoviruses like Marburg disease and Ebola, where the majority do not survive. The majority of people survive this, and hopefully a vaccine will be developed and we will be on the other side where more people are recovering, less people getting infected. But maybe if it's brought us to our knees as a planet, we'll be able to put the pieces back together in a new way that includes more loving kindness to our planet and ourselves and to others. So it's always a possibility. Okay, humility brings us there. Humility can bring us there. This lowly and sustaining earth is the source, again, for humility, humor, and humanity, all connected. And is it any surprise that we have to have a sense of humility to be able to laugh at ourselves? Humor, okay? That's the next pillar of joy, to be able to laugh at ourselves, and that to be able to laugh at ourselves reminds us of our shared humanity. Shared humanity. We're all going through this right now together. Nobody's separated from this and not experiencing this on the planet. We're all going through this. And through that shared humanity, can I realize that I'm just a human being, right? I'm just the same as everyone else. I want to be happy and I don't want to suffer. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants that. Okay. Do some people go about at getting their happiness at a way I might not go about getting my happiness? And do some people go about avoiding suffering differently than I do? Yes. But fundamentally, it comes back to everybody wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer. We're all the same in that right now. So let's look at humor. How does humor manifest in our lives? And if you start looking for the humor in life, you will find it, and you will stop asking, why me? And start recognizing that life happens to all of us. Life happens to all of us. Okay? We might not feel, this is not necessarily a time to be laughing at things. People are ill and people are dying. There's no sense in laughing at the matter. But there's certainly some things that I've seen rotating around the internet that bring in some humor to what's happening. And I find it brings in a lightness in the face of what's happening. So why not add a dimension of that when it is appropriate? Okay, when it's appropriate to remind myself about, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. And that comes again from the soil to bring some grounding under my feet to help me be calm, to help me be calm. Next pillar I want to talk about is acceptance. Acceptance. And these 4 pillars of perspective, humility, humor, and acceptance are all, in a sense, kind of qualities of the mind that we can generate. So Master Shantideva, who's a great Buddhist saint who lived around the 7th, 8th centuries, and His Holiness often refers to this quote about why be unhappy about something if it can be remedied, and what's the use of being unhappy if it cannot be remedied? Acceptance. So right now, you might look at, you can't fix the virus. You can't stop the virus from spreading. You can't develop a vaccine. But I sure am glad there's scientists on the planet and healthcare workers that are trying. What can I work on? Okay. What can I remedy? Well, I can work on my mind. I can work on my mind. And I don't mean it's just about me taking care of myself. I never want to lose the motivation that I'd like to show up in a way that will swiftly get me along a path where I can reach a place where I'm unlimited in benefiting all living beings. So if I keep that motivation in mind, I don't need to be unhappy about the things I can't control. What is it that you can actually control? A lot of us like to exert control over people and things. What can you really control? It's simply your attitude, your mind. So if there's something I can do with, and here's a great skill, if I can keep my mind calmer That may make people in my household calmer because I'm not feeding into the anxiety or depression. If I find buoyant ways to educate myself right now or use my time wisely, that may have a ripple effect with other members of my household right now. If I don't have anybody that I'm living with, can I be more of a support for my community, maybe some neighbors that may need help? Have I sent a text around to some neighbors or an email asking, especially elderly neighbors or people with any chronic illnesses, do they need anything? Do they know that I'm here in case they need something, they can call on me? Are there any food banks in your area? I live between a couple of food banks, and right now they both need help because most of their volunteers were seniors. And those seniors have decided to stay home, which is a wise decision because they're a more vulnerable population. So the food banks need volunteers, but they also need food. So I went out the other day, very careful to go out to one of these stores where I bought some food in as safe as manner as I could. I went on with gloves, I covered my face, and when I got home, I wiped down all the food with alcohol, the outside of the containers. Okay, they were in kind of airtight containers, wiped everything down, and I'm going to deliver it on Tuesday. And I don't see or touch or come in contact with anyone. The woman's going to call me, she leaves me a time, the address, and I put it on a clean paper and I leave it outside their door. And I've already told them it's all alcoholed, it's all cleaned, as clean as I could do, and then they'll have food. So is that something that is possible for you to do in your community? Because I do find volunteering, when appropriate, inappropriate fashions, seems to be a really helpful way to lend calm to the mind as well. And it gets into the thing of what can be remedied. What can I do to remedy something? Maybe I choose to do that. Okay, if you feel it's safe for you as well to do it and safe for other. Okay. And then if there's something I can't remedy, can I practice letting it go? Can I practice merging my mind in a meditation with the clear blue sky and just see those anxieties that come up like clouds in the sky? Let them go. They change shape like clouds do. And eventually those clouds move out. And again, we will have a clear, pristine day, clear, pristine weather if I'm not hanging on and attaching any more importance to certain thoughts that come through my mind, making them bigger. So again, once we see life in its wider perspective, once we're able to see our role in its drama with some degree of humility, and once we're able to laugh at ourselves, okay, then we develop this ability to accept our life in all of its pain, imperfection, and beauty. Okay, pain, imperfection, and I add that last word, beauty. There is a lot of beauty out there and a lot of incredibly kind things people are doing right now. I think of some friends of mine who are healthcare workers right now, and they're going into critical areas of the hospital on their shifts. So some of the hospitals, they feel that they don't have all of the protective equipment. But for me, just the beauty of people showing up for us, for any of our illnesses, that they're still showing up to do that. Fantastic, amazing. Is there pain and imperfection? Yes, that is life on the planet always. So can I just learn an acceptance of that instead of railing about and on insisting on a world of how I think it should be, as opposed to how it really is. Now, acceptance, I want to clarify, is the opposite of resignation and defeat. Acceptance is the opposite of resignation and defeat. I'm not saying who cares, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter, but I'm seeing things in a more grounded perspective. This is what I can change, then do it. This is what I can't change. Release yourself from it. You don't need to be held hostage with that. And acceptance, whether you believe in God or Buddha or whomever, allows us to move into the fullness of joy. It allows you to engage with life, again, on its own terms rather than railing against the fact that life is not as we wish it would be. Okay. It allows us, instead of struggling against a day-to-day current, you don't need to do that. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama mentions that stress and anxiety come from our expectations of how life should be. I personally find expectation, in a sense, is the mother of disappointment. Mother of disappointment. I have a too high view of how I expect something to be, and I'm not looking at the reality. Acceptance asks you to check into the reality. Open your eyes and wake up to the reality. When we're able to accept that life is how it is, not as we think it should be, we're able to ease the ride. Okay? And as they mention in the Book of Joy, from the bumpy axle, the bumpy ride of dukkha, suffering, okay? That bumpy ride with all of its suffering, stress, anxiety, dissatisfaction, to this smooth ride with greater ease, comfort, calm. So many of the causes of our suffering, please check, come from our reaction to people, places, things, circumstances in our lives, rather than accepting them. And when we react, when we react negatively, in the mainstream, is we stay locked into judgment and criticism. We stay locked into anxiety and despair, and even denial and addiction. It's impossible to experience a calm and a joy when we're stuck in this way. Acceptance is like a sword that cuts through all of this resistance, allowing us to relax more, to see clearly, and then to respond appropriately. We try our best. We try our best. So the next pillar, forgiveness. First pillar of the heart. The next 4 pillars come from the heart. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Huge step. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has a wonderful book he wrote with his daughter called The Book of Forgiveness. I highly recommend it, The Book of Forgiveness. If this is one of your things, an inability to forgive yourself or others, he has some wonderful exercises in this book. So, and His Holiness will say, His Holiness the Dalai Lama will say, where a wrong action happened to occur, it may be necessary to take some appropriate counteraction to stop it. And from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he says forgiveness is the only way to heal ourselves and to be free from the past, especially negative experiences of the past. Okay, so we've got some questions, I see. Let me just finish this one. Without forgiveness, this is from Archbishop Desmond Tutu's daughter in the Book of Forgiving, we remain tethered to the person who harmed us. We're bound to the chains of bitterness, tied together and trapped, held hostage, basically. Until we can forgive, that person holds the keys to our happiness. That person, in a sense, is your jailer. So forgiveness is fantastic way. So let me just interrupt for a moment, and we're going to take a few questions right now. Let's see if I can, here we go. Okay, thank you for referring the book. And let me know where I can find the questions, or if you want to send those on. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry, but those of you that are watching my live stream, that's the reason my head is turned, is I'm on another live stream on my computer facing forward. Again, Chen Ling Center, TSECHEN, okay? And Ling, Ling, our San Francisco Center is hosting this right now. I want to thank them so much. And so I won't be able to respond to the questions on my live feed myself. So you can send it through there if you can find that live feed. So until we have some questions, feel free to type those in. I'm going to go back to the next pillar. And we're also going to do another meditation if we have time before we finish. The next pillar is gratitude. So we started off a little bit with gratitude. And there's a lot more also I could say about forgiveness that we could spend more time if we have time. But I want to talk about gratitude right now. Acceptance means not fighting reality, but gratitude means embracing reality. It means moving from counting your burdens to counting your blessings. Okay? I would say both. You can use counting your blessings as an antidote to envy, a recipe for appreciating our lives. Incredible. So a lot of people tend to gravitate into negative mind states. I used to be like that. And I do more and more try to move into gratitude. I found it to be a huge support for me right now of just walking around my living space. And I'm just grateful every moment for having a wonderful space like this. Just incredibly helpful to look at gratitude. Okay, hang on. We've got one comment I'm just going to look at right now. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Okay, can we talk more about practices for working with bouts of fear and worry that come up? Okay, let's look at fear and worry for a moment. A lot of people consumed with this right now. What Tibetan Buddhism asks us to do is to analyze our fear and our worry. Analyze. We have a habit of staying tethered to it, and the ruminating mind starts circling around, building and constructing a bigger fear and worry in our minds. If you don't want to insert the crowbar of analysis, let's say, we have to analyze. Ask yourself, is this fear or worry, is there a reasonable basis for it? Okay, so you'll say, well, I could get the virus. Then ask yourself, are you doing whatever you can in your means to avoid getting the virus? Are you practicing isolating yourself? Are you practicing hygiene in your home place? Are you wiping counters down, doorknobs, light switches, device knobs and remote controls and things like that, telephones? It's the best you can do. Are you washing your hands periodically in the proper way? What else can you do? Then it's different to have concern, which is a little bit more proactively positive. But if I'm doing all these things, that's the best I can do. So you analyze, there's nothing more I can do. Can I practice letting it go? Is that possible? Sometimes what I realize is the fear and worry doesn't have a very grounded basis. It's just free-form anxiety and when I notice there's no basis for it, why am I hanging on to this? Here's another thing you can do. Why not schedule time to worry? If you're a worrier from the start, from the get-go, schedule time to worry. Seriously, okay? You have your schedule for the day. 4 to 4:20 is my worry time. 4 to 4:20 every afternoon is my worry time. Honestly, put it in your phone on your calendar. Set a reminder for yourself. What will happen is with scheduled worry, at that particular time, suddenly it pops up and I realize that I'm not really particularly worried right now. Isn't that interesting? So instead of feeling like, suddenly I realize I'm not really worried about anything now. There's nothing really to worry about right now. Let it go. So that way, every time the worrying mind comes up at another time of the day, no, this is not my scheduled time to worry. My scheduled time is 4 to 4:20 in the afternoon, and I don't have to worry now because that's my time to worry. So see if that can help pop you out of that a little bit. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Question number 2. In the opening practice, mentioned breathing in love for ourselves. People find it very difficult to feel loving kindness for themselves. Loving kindness for themselves, okay? Well, you're also a sentient being, meaning you are also a living being. If you're a Buddhist practitioner, you've signed up. If you're a Mahayana Buddhist practitioner, meaning somebody studying, practitioner of Tibetan Buddhism, your interest is reaching a fully awakened state so you can benefit. And here's the catch. The emphasis is on all living beings. All living beings. That includes yourself. You are a living being. You're a sentient being. And you deserve kindness, love, respect. Absolutely. So can you, as you're noticing difficulty inhaling kindness to myself, and this is from Kristen Neff, is a wonderful psychologist who does some beautiful, she has a book on self-compassion I would highly recommend. And she does a really nice breathing meditation where you do a little half smile to myself. Maybe that half smile is, I can't get the whole smile going because feel a little funny and I'm not used to practicing loving kindness with myself. But the thing is, if you practice it more with yourself, I will have more to give to others. I'm really interested in giving it to others. If I haven't started practicing it with myself, that's going to be more challenging. Half smile to yourself. Even notice on the outside, part of my face goes up in a half smile as I'm inhaling because I'm having a little challenge with that. And I exhale loving kindness to the planet. Eventually it'll be a whole smile. Eventually you'll be able to smile on the inside. You just try your best. It's just patterns, again, low self-esteem that feels like we're less than worthy. Low self-esteem can also be a practice of egomania, but it can also be that we are less than worthy. They're both devices of the same aspect of the self-cherishing mind. So you deserve that. You're good enough for that. So please try. Okay, here's another question. Letting go. It is hard to do when we're in such a serious situation. Can you share more about how to do this? Okay, let's just look at when I am able to let go of something. When I am able to let go, I have a broader space of calm in me. That space is not only going to benefit me, but it will benefit the planet. It will benefit my neighbors. It will benefit my other people in the household with me. So I have to try to practice a little bit letting go, seeing those tensions like clouds in the sky, and noting if you are facing a clear mountain lake. Actually, let's try this meditation right now. We might not have time to get to the loving kindness one. Let's try this. I find this really helpful. This is dealing with a meditation on the clarity of consciousness. This is done in a little bit different way. The clarity of your mind, the clarity of your mind. When I can't let go of stuff, I don't have much clarity. Let's just try. Find a comfortable position and close your eyes lightly. And we first settle the mind on the breath, just to build some balance there. I'd like you to imagine you are seated right now outside beside a beautiful, still mountain lake. Beautiful scenery is around you, and you're seated facing this extremely clear mountain lake. Look out over the expanse of this lake. Crystal clear, just like one aspect of your mind. Yes, in Tibetan Buddhism, the mind has simply two characteristics: clarity and awareness. Clarity and awareness. We may feel that our mind has no clarity now, but actually that is one of the innate qualities of your mind. The extreme negative situations that run through our mind are simply delusion or an imbalance. That's all. And through practice, we can remove those from our mind permanently and enhance the positive aspects, clarity being one of them. So as you're facing out, looking at the clear mountain lake, notice a bubble that forms on the surface now. A little bubble comes to the surface, and notice the small ripples that move out from the bubble. Small bubble, small disturbance of the surface. Just like when you have a neutral thought arising in your mind. For instance, I think I'll brush my teeth now. Small disturbance to the clear nature of your mind. But when anxiety and depression arise, more turbulent surface to the water. When a big bubble comes up on the surface of the lake, notice the larger turbulence on the surface of the lake that is like your mind. So stay focused on the lake. Notice any agitation that arises in your mind. You can do this at any time of the day. We would like our mind to be calmer. Can I just imagine I'm unhinging? Oh, imagine your fingers opening on the rigid rod of those thoughts you're holding on to. Peel back your fingers, let the thought go. Watch it, like the bubble, dissolve back into the surface from where it came. And slowly, the ripples on the lake subside. The turbulence in our mind diminishes, returning our awareness to a calm, clear space as much as possible. Just stay focused on the lake for a few moments, experimenting with that, noticing how thoughts come and go, trying to relinquish your hold on them, returning to that clear, pristine lake that is like your mind. Here's another thing you can try: thought interruption and thought replacement. You're ruminating in your mind, you're concerned about the virus. The rumination forms a deep trench of negative thinking. That's all. You're not a bad person. You're just habituated with a certain type of thinking. That's all. Some kindness to yourself. Let's try to create a new trail of positivity and let go that trench. It's going to take a lot of effort right now. Sometimes I've said to myself, stop thinking. Stop thinking. Use that as an interruption and replace the negative thinking. Have a device for yourself, some positive thinking or image. I have a friend who suffered for years with chronic depression. Her image, which sounds very trite, is she would picture herself when she felt some depression coming on. She pictured herself in a room filled with puppy dogs. That worked for her. They were jumping, leaping around her, licking her, wagging their tails. she would try to stay focused on that. I'm not trying to minimize what's going on in the world right now. But keeping yourself harnessed in negative thinking is not helping you or anyone else. Have an image or a technique in your mind to think about how fortunate you are with the circumstances you have right now. Just being able to tune in to this kind of live stream, just having a safe, warm bed to sleep in every night, having food in your kitchen, unbelievable luxuries to a lot of people on the planet. Let's focus on that. Can we focus on that? So I know it's difficult. We have to start making kind of new neural pathway, breaking new trail. And I know it takes a lot of effort. So just try your best. Okay, here's another question. And I want to go back. I want to finish before we finish the last pillars of joy. Here's a question. How would you recommend forgiving politicians whom some people may feel angry towards? Okay, if you want to hang out with your anger, it doesn't affect the politicians. It doesn't have any effect on them except constricting your own heart-mind experience, keeping you in prison with your anger and your pain and your hatred, and creating more habits of that in your mind. So I would, as much as you can, I think the politicians right now need our compassion more than ever, and I don't care who they are. How can we not have compassion for them? Okay, we are clueless ourselves individually on what to do. Imagine them. They don't have all the answers. Okay, they're not necessarily leading any sort of spiritual enlightened lifestyles, are they? I don't know about their spiritual practices, but having been involved in politics myself, there's not a lot of enlightened leadership going on there. It's not the nature of it, because in order to want to be elected and want to do that, there's a large amount of ego that's involved. So how can we not have compassion for them? And if they're really lost and they seem to be making poor decisions, being lost, even more of a bigger space of heart would be nice to develop towards them. The kindness. That's been kind of my response, even when I find that somebody is really saying some challenging things or acting in a challenging way. And for those of you that have some understanding of the teachings on emptiness, this is a profound part of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy of the nature, regarding the nature of reality. So because we don't have that accurate view of reality, and you can just check yourself whether you're Buddhist or not, when you get a story going about someone or something, we get invested in our story and we feel that our story is the absolute truth and that it's accurate. But isn't there always another perspective and another side of the story? Okay. So Tibetan Buddhism says until you've had a direct perception of emptiness, your story is always wrong. So I'd like to free myself from holding stories about people, and I'd rather exercise a bigger space of heart. But in understanding that everybody's story is wrong unless they've had a direct perception of that nature of reality, we then act out of a wrong story. And that's why we get in trouble, all of us, Buddhist or non-Buddhist. So how can we not have compassion? I notice how I suffer, so how can I not have compassion for other people suffering? So that's just one particular view I have of ways to not stay locked in anger and hatred, if that's helpful. So I'd like to just return back for a moment. We were talking about acceptance, and just thinking, and there's some quotes in the Book of Joy, and one of the things that's mentioned is a death row inmate named Anthony Ray Hinton. And he was held on death row for 30 years for a crime he didn't commit. When he was released from prison, this was his view of something so mundane. He said, people run out of the rain. He said, I run into the rain. How can anything that falls from heaven not be precious? And then he said, having missed the rain for so many years, imagine being locked inside and never being able to experience rain at all. He said, I am so grateful for every drop, just to feel it on my face. So that was his view of something so mundane. So just again, stepping back, a broader perspective of people on the planet right now. And he also had this feeling, if I'm angry and unforgiving, then his view was they will have taken the rest of my life. So I want to go into the last two pillars of joy. Oops. Let me just find my spot here. Compassion and generosity. Compassion and generosity. I think we have some sense of compassion. Biblical Hebrew word for compassion, rachamim. Rachamim, again, comes from the root word for womb. Rechem comes from the root word for womb. And the Dalai Lama often says it's from our mother's nurturing that we learn compassion. Not that fathers don't have that as well, but this maternal instinct of wanting to relieve suffering. Compassion is in many ways expanding this maternal instinct that was so pivotal to the survival of our species. So think about ways you can exercise a little bit more self-compassion. Are you beating yourself up? Why? Because you're being a little lazier, because you're not getting out of bed on time, because if you're watching too much TV, or you're streaming this video or that video, and please relax a little bit. This is a big time for all of us. We've never experienced this kind of global shutdown right now. When you feel that space, take a deep breath. I'm noticing a lack of generosity towards myself. Deep breath, and just allow that calm to come in myself. I'm good enough. Again, all living beings, I'm part of that. I'm part of that formula. I deserve this. And then exhale, relax. Inhale, I'm okay. Exhale, relax. Inhale, I'm okay. Exhale, relax. Maybe you stay there for a while. You know, and basic mindfulness will sometimes just bring us into, I inhale, I'm uncomfortable. I exhale, I'm uncomfortable. Or I inhale, noting discomfort. I exhale, discomfort. You just stay there. That is life on the planet. But again, what it said before, in our pain, in our suffering, and the beauty of life, all of that is wrapped up together. So there are some beautiful, glorious things happening, experiences, people, and there's pain and suffering. That's life on the planet. That's how it is. It's a balance. It's a balance of things. We do the best we can. Compassion is also contagious. Compassion seems to be contagious. When you see or witness somebody else doing something kind, compassionate, I'm kind of a little bit raised to a little bit moral elevation. I feel like I can do that, or that motivates me to want to do something compassionate, to want to open my hearts like that. We sometimes fear compassion because we're afraid people will walk all over us, because we'll be more vulnerable. That we feel like we'll court helplessness that come from having an open heart. But psychologists have found that many people are afraid if they are compassionate like this, okay? But mostly, most people's well-being have come from having that open heart. They found that that's really worked for them as more, and that we realize there's an interdependence. We realize there's an interdependence to all of us. Self-compassion closely connected to self-acceptance. So if you're not feeling that self-compassion, okay, what am I not accepting about myself? Do I feel like I should step up more? If you feel like you need to step up more and do something, then act. Can you do it safely and appropriately? And if not, let it go. I'm doing the best I can then. That's okay. I'm not a perfect person. Okay? We're not all Buddhas and fully awakened beings. The nature of being a human is we make mistakes, that's all. That we're lazy sometimes. We're tired. We're depressed. We're anxious. We're fearful. We're confused. That's all. We grasp onto things. We don't like things. That's the nature of being human. But we can work on each of those things. So let me go one last thing, and then I'll see if there's any more questions. Generosity. And there's a lot more I could say about these, so we can always continue at another time. Generosity is something we learn to enjoy by doing it. It's not about necessarily giving money, okay? But all the religious traditions circle around generosity and have this. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam, zakat. In Judaism, tzedakah, which literally means justice. Hinduism and Buddhism, dana. In Christianity, charity. Generosity is so important in all of the world's spiritual practices because it no doubt expresses a fundamental aspect. You ready for this? Of our interdependence, our need for one another. Generosity was so important for our survival that reward centers of our brain light up as strongly when we give as when we receive. Okay, so it's nice also to receive because then somebody else gets to give. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways. Okay, and this is one of the 4 fundamental brain circuits that came from a psychologist about long-term well-being, generosity. This is one of the things that supports long-term well-being. Okay, great. So Stephen's talking, we're going to start to wrap up because I want to do a dedication, but a little bit more. Generosity is associated with better health and longer life expectancy. And again, not just about giving money, but I do want to say in conclusion that to consider, please consider Chen Ling Center, who is hosting this. And I'm very grateful to Stephen for helping me get on and helping me do the live stream, for supporting me with the questions, for posting the different links to different books, for supporting all of the activities there, along with Venerable Carol, Mary Ellen, Lynn, all the people making Chen Ling Center thriving and working. If you've been on and you think it's helpful, please try to make a donation right now. Chen Ling Center could really use it. If you're not using your car, just consider saving 20 to 30 bucks at least for a fill up, maybe more. Could I direct that towards the center? If I'm not using public transportation, if I'm not going out to the cafes and the restaurants and things I normally would do, fantastic way to help support the centers. Thank you very much. Or your local center, please consider. And I'd like to just dedicate, basically in closing, whatever positive energy, and there's the link right there that Stephen's posting. If whatever positive energy that we have created from spending this time together, I'd like to invest it in our being able to implement some of these exercises, but the centers have a lot more things, and there's many things you can find online, and to fold it into some sort of spiritual practice, whether it's basic mindfulness or rooted in some other spirituality, that will help us move along a path in keeping an open heart, an open mind, that will help us reach a place of full awakening so we can be of the most benefit to all living beings. So I hope you can practice in that way. I'd like to dedicate right now also to our precious teachers, particularly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I'd like to dedicate to them for their long lives. May they steer away from this virus by all means, for all of us to remain healthy and safe, particularly those suffering from more chronic illnesses. And anyone that has the virus, may they be healed instantly. May the spread stop immediately. And may anyone who's passed away from having the virus or having a lack of medical care due to the virus, may they immediately take a good rebirth to be of the most benefit to all living beings. Thank you so much. Please be well. And any response to things, as much as you're trying to work with your own heart, your own mind, trying to steer away from negative attitudes, please choose love. Thank you.